Hello, everyone, and welcome to Stage 4, Week 6 of the Quake Pro League. I am Lethal, joined by my partner in crime, the analytical mastermind, that is Flea. How you doing, Flea?
Doing well, man. Wonderful day. Lots of good games ahead of us. I'm very excited to get into all of the matches.
Yeah, I think we've got some cracking matches coming up throughout the whole course of the day and the evening, depending on where you are watching this from. And I think the leaderboard as well, including the standings, will have some big changes here and there, depending on the circumstances of a lot of these matches.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we can't forget, this is week 6 of the Stage 4 of the Quake Pro League, so we're getting pretty close towards the end of Stage 4. We're past the halfway point already. Left before we final standings go of the entire Quake Pro League. These games are really important for all of our players, since a win or a loss against the right or the wrong opponent could really spell disaster for some players, and for others could put them in a really good position going into the finals.
Well, the key phrase there is the fact that we're already in the second half of Stage 4. It's by me how quick things have gone. A lot of things have changed, and I think we need to check the schedule shortly to see exactly what matches we'll be watching as we cover them all going forward. Because there's a few highlights here and there. There's going to be some which will be a tall order, but as you can see there, the first match will be Spart1e versus Raisy. Spart1e still trying to get that first series win on the board. Raisy we saw as well with the fact that he had a bit of a shaky start to the end of Stage 3, but it has done magnificently well compared to what he did before during the start of Stage 4. But some other good matches there. You've got Nosfer versus Dewey as well. A clash of, you could say, complete opposite playstyles. Nosfo's very aggressive, pretty much an aim star, and Dewey, who likes to choose his battles wisely. But apart from everything else, Kulivitz has talked another great one, and Sagi versus Genic.
Yeah, absolutely. Some really good games. And then third, we're going to see Nosfa versus Dewey. A bit of versus Toxic, definitely a highlight game of today, ranked number 9 and 10, so actually pretty close in the ranking. Cooler starting off really strong earlier in the Quake Pro League, getting that championship belt back at Stage 2 finals, but ever since has been slipping a bit, whereas Toxic has been maintaining a pretty solid position.
Yeah, it's very difficult to say the least. You know, we know Genic has had a little bit of a hard time going throughout this stage. So he needs to try and get a win underneath his belt. But Spart1e especially, he hasn't had one as of yet, but it's going to get to a point now where it is a must win, because if all else fails, you know, he doesn't want to be dancing with the relegation zone here, Flea.
Absolutely, and I think that is a real danger for a few players, right? Spart1e on the one hand, we've also got CNZ on the European side, and then more towards NA, we've got Effortless and Genic, two other players that are really struggling, getting themselves the points they need to avoid relegation.
I feel like with CNZ, you know, he's done, you know, a great job here and there in terms of his improvements. But with him especially, some people might say that he focuses more on other people's mistakes rather than his own. But he's obviously made a lot of changes to improve himself as a player. And, you know, we're talking about how some matches could be a tall order. Rafa versus Effortless. That is definitely going to be a tall order, to say the least. Rafa, who hasn't dropped a series throughout the entire Pro League, just in terms of the standard stages, not the finals. And it's going to be very difficult for him, for Effortless, to see if he can bounce back and get anything going, even try and scrape a map if possible. Wenger versus Cypher and Kilson versus Avic. I think we're pretty much laughing in terms of how happy we are to actually see these matches happen again. It's going to be close-knit between all these players in both of those matches. Like, as you remember before with Kilson versus Avic, that comeback Avic made against Kilson on Ruins was literally, I think Avic was something like 11-1 or 12-1 down and still almost made a massive comeback, which was huge. And just to let everyone know at home, Dramis versus Sagib, that match will be postponed for the time being. But apart from that, Flea, some good matches to end the day with too.
Oh, absolutely. I think Wenger and Cypher, Kilson and Avek, those are some of the absolute highlights, especially Wenger versus Cypher, because if you look at the rankings, they're actually so close to one another. You've got Wenger, Raisy and Cypher, and they're all within 15 points of one another this late in Stage 4. So these wins can be absolutely huge. If Cypher takes it with a convincing win, he can skyrocket himself way high into the leaderboard, and same goes for Wenger. So that is going to be one hell of a matchup.
Well, between us, Flea, I think players like Rafa are doing okay at the moment. They're like 200 plus points ahead, which we'll look at the standings very shortly. But you're right, though. You know, a lot of the people between, you know, third and sixth are very close knit for all of these players. So, like with the Hang, like he wants to try and keep that lead. I think the main talking point is Cypher, Raisy, and Wenger, especially with Cypher and Wenger. If Cypher takes it, then he'll try and extend his lead from the rest of the pack. But if Wenger wins, then he may get access to the top four, depending on how Raisy's match is against Spart1e.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some extremely important games coming up today. The highlights, we already just went over it. Still looking at just the lead that Rafa has. 200 points over Kilson. What an absolutely phenomenal standing for the player from the Americas. So unstrong, insurmountable. It seems like now in stage 4 still hasn't even dropped a matchup yet. And the only other player to actually rival him in doing so is Wenger on the European side of things. Still going 4-0. Very strong performance leading into stage 4. And it's going to be very difficult for him to maintain that in his matchup against Cypher.
I was thinking actually, because I'm not too sure if Wenger's actually dropped a series throughout stage 4. I need to double check on that. But the way he's going, I'm very curious to see what improvements he's actually made between stage 3 finals and stage 4, because he also has made some huge improvements, like his aim, his aggression, everything's there and it's come to par for himself. But I'm wondering what changes he's made in depth to maybe his play style, or maybe he's been focusing more on what other people, his opponents, are doing to kind of grasp exactly what he needs to do in order to counter some of the players he's playing against. So there's quite a few things to take into account there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that just shows the added value that a series like the Quake Pro League has, right? Because these players every single week are going up against the best others in the world. This isn't something like we used to have where players would prepare a few weeks in advance of a LAN. No, this is weekly matches against the absolute top players globally. So that just makes the level of competition just increase and skyrocket time and time again, because all of these players, they are constantly figuring out what works better against certain opponents than to others. So there's a lot of strategy, a lot of preparation, and a lot of hard work that goes into this.
Yeah, it's like the Americas, for example. We expected Rafa and the Hang to be gatekeeping some of those placements in the top 10, you know. I think we would have been shocked, or, you know, would have been huge upsets if they weren't, let's be real here. But, you know, there's a couple of people in the Americas where, like Sidegib, who are just below that 10th spot, but we'll have to see if they can at least change that in some way, shape or form towards the end of stage 4. But let's go to the first match anyway. The first one we need to talk about is Spart1e versus Raisy. Now, Raisy, like I said earlier, he had a little bit of a shaky start towards the end of stage 3. Stage 4 now, he's been doing really well. He's been very consistent. But Spart1e, though, we've got to remember with him, it's more the fact that he's been very, very close to winning a lot of these maps, sometimes even the matches, but he's just been really struggling to close them out. But Raisy so far has been phenomenal throughout the whole course of stage 4.
Oh, absolutely. I think that Raisy is just coming back with a vengeance because he knows he has something to prove after what happened in Stage 3 finals, right? We've seen him do so well at LAN, getting second place finishes, destroying and dismantling some of the best opponents in the world. And then Stage 3 finals come around, he first loses to Cypher, a matchup that he picked himself, and then immediately afterwards drops it against Wenger, his teammate from Maestro as well. So he was out just like that. And this is coming from someone who, in the previous LAN, managed to get second place all the way to the grand finals. So Raisy, he's back with a vengeance. He knows that he can do a lot better than the performance he brought to us back in the Stage 3 finals, and I think that he's definitely been proving that so far.
Oh, definitely. I don't feel like Raisy has dropped in skill level in any way, shape or form. I think it's just the fact that he's just been struggling to close out some of the series. Because if you look back, it was by one frag, or as a map which he wasn't really in favour to him or in particular. It's been a bit of a struggle for him. But he's realised that he's trying to close out his mistakes. And we've noticed that thoroughly throughout the whole course of the stage, because the two Maestro guys in the top 2 in the EU region so far. But having a look at Spart1e now, you know, the other end of the stick, it's going to be, I would say, a must-win for him now for a couple of these matches, because he doesn't want to dance with the relegation zone, which he is in currently, so he needs to really try and get something done here. He's a huge grinder. He's done so much to try and get something going, but again, another player who's missed out on a series win just because of the odd frags here and there. He's lost a lot of maps by one frag as well. He's been so close, but yet so far here.
Yeah, Spart1e is an incredibly talented player, but as you said, just unable to close out so many of these maps. It must be incredibly frustrating for him too. But we know that he is not someone to tilt easily. He's someone who can put in the effort, who can put in the grind, and I'm really hoping that we're going to see more out of him because he's come so close so many times, but so far hasn't yet won a map in Stage 4. And as you mentioned, he is still in the relegation zone. Yes, he has a small lead over CNZ, but then if you look at Avek, who is the next person up on the leaderboards that he has to overtake if he wants to avoid having to play another relegation match, Avek is building a pretty significant lead and is doing well in Stage 4 too. So Spart1e, he really has to start kicking it up in these next few weeks at least.
Definitely has to pull his finger out, definitely, because, you know, you said before with Avek, he's been dancing with relegation throughout every single stage, and every single time has actually been able to bail and get away from the zone every time. He's literally got a get out of jail free card in terms of that section anyway. But yeah, for Spart1e, he realizes that he knows Avek is a very, very strong opponent, that somehow, some way, he will get a couple wins on the board. So Spart1e, this is the time for him to try and get something going here, as we do have the picks and bans. And let's be real here, Fleet. Corrupted Keep banned straight away for Spart1e. Are you surprised? No, I'm absolutely not. Raisy's Keep will be banned straight away, and we will be playing on Veil, Blood Run, and Molten Falls here, Fleet.
Yeah, Veil, we're immediately going to see the Sorlag come out to play from Raisy. Of course, one of the stronger picks on this map, very vertical and has a lot of that toxicity, the acid on the floor, which Sorlag, of course, is completely invulnerable to, so she won't take any damage hopping around those paths. Then on Bloodrun, we've got a predictable matchup. We see the Nyx going up against the Doomslayer, two very common, very meta picks on Bloodrun in particular, because of how important that double jump or the wall jump is to traverse that center area of the map. It just gives you so much more mobility, being able to get onto the heavy or quickly making your way over from the tribal to the shotgun opens up so many pathways to avoid and to catch your opponent off guard. And then finally, the last map of the bunch is going to be Molten Falls, the largest one of the bunch, definitely the one with the most open hallways, the largest line of sights. We're going to see two pretty fast champions make an appearance. Spart1e is going to be kicking things off with the Anarchy, so a lot of air control, whereas Raisy will be going for the Stroke, who of course has that crouch slide to work with.
Yeah, it should be a very fast-paced matchup in map number 3, and you saw as well Clutch banned straight away. I think it's pretty standard now. I think we've spoken about it so much now on broadcast as the fact that Raisy loves Clutch, or in terms of maps he loves Corrupted Keep. You know, 9 times out of 10 you are going to see that banned every single time without fail. But with Molten Falls, with the Anarchy and the Sorlag as well, I think that's a nice treat for us to end the series.
Oh yeah, I still remember I had a conversation with Rafa face-to-face at the Stage 3 finals, and the topic of Clutch came up, and he basically said, if you know your opponent plays Clutch well, you ban him. That's it. It's simple as that. You take out the robot if you know your opponent has got skills with him. And we've seen that put into good use a whole lot, especially against Raisy, who arguably has the single best Clutch in the entire world. So definitely a safe pick from Spart1e to get rid of that champion.
Yeah, the amount of chip damage you have to do against a Clutch is just ridiculous before you force the engagement out. It's going to be a bit of a pain, but we're going to get into the first match of the day. First map will be Veil. We're going to see what can be done here. Spart1e's kept back for the time being, but we're going to see if he can give him back enough. I'm not sure if he'll be able to. No, he won't, as Raisy will be the one to get the first frag on the board.
Bit of a iffy aim from Spart1e right there. Hits essentially nothing towards the end, and now Raisy immediately off the spawn. Raisy knows that Spart1e has got nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, and takes him down even before the Swedish player is able to deny the Mega. That would have still been a nice silver lining for Spart1e, who's now hiding right underneath Raisy. Manages to slip out of the room unnoticed, because that would have been a clear and easy frag for Raisy.
Yeah, you saw Raisy was thinking about delaying the Mega, but then decided not to, because then there's obviously the opportunity where Spart1e could have picked up the Heavy, which is completely understandable, but Raisy's got a huge stack here as the LG comes through. Throws Walkers out as well, but the LG still continues to come in, but Spart1e's so weak here and gets taken down from the Venom anyway. So Raisy managed to take that and increase his lead 3-0, but at the same time, Spart1e does manage to burn the Heavy for the time being. But Raisy was on the chase, but just sadly missed out on the path that Spart1e took. But speaking of that, Spart1e's coming straight in. The first rail comes through, and Spart1e gets the first frag on the board here.
Yeah, good tactical play from Spart1e, just constantly applying pressure for the past 30 seconds, not letting Raisy get away with anything clean. Look at the gauntlet coming out from Raisy, the fly-by gauntlet. Now Now taking a lot of damage though, Spart1e has to get on a bubble in time, will be able to secure himself the frag. Mega and Heavy both are up. Spart1e will prioritize the health first. Can he get on Heavy as well? Raisy's gonna come through the LG, knocking him straight back down. This is disaster for the Maestro player. And Spart1e quickly tying things right back down.
That's fantastic
Wow.
stuff on Spart1e. What a change of events we've seen compared to right at the beginning. Of course, that gauntlet play earlier wasn't the best for him, but the rockets are coming through. But Spart1e's got him pinned here. There's not really too much he can do, but that was a beautiful rocket there. Raisy just from the skin of his teeth manages to stay alive. I don't know.
What is happening? I think that Spart1e has an incredibly high ratio of direct rockets to rockets fired. He's shot like 5 in a row that were just 100 damage, big putts coming out. As he's planning to make a move on Heavy, of course, he has to be careful because that LG, that will punish you. Raisy will have to slip through the teleporter, and now Spart1e trying to get a good read of the spawn. Knows exactly where Raisy is right now.
Still delaying him for the time being. You're right here, Flea. Spart1e did a great job there earlier, but the rockets are still coming through. The LG comes through as a follow-up, but will he be able to finish him off? This is the question. He's so weak here, but decides to leave him for now. See if he can get a different flank on him, which he does. One more shot should do it after this. The question is, will he be able to push him? No, he's going to give it a try anyway, but he's so weak. Raisy's just trying to back away, but how is Raisy still alive here? But Spart1e, for now, my goodness, almost gets taken down after picking up the Heavy. But Spart1e, you know, I feel like he should have had that frag, but at the same time manages to stay alive afterwards as the engagement continues and manages to back away, do a little bit more damage there, and gets the Mega and the Light for the time being.
A big reason why Spart1e wasn't able to close out the frag right there is because he was on 88 points of health for quite a bit, meaning that he was railable. So if he showed his face again and Raisy, sure, that works too, managed to get a quick snap off on him, that would have been him losing out on the Heavy completely. So he had to play it a little bit carefully right there and wait until he got himself a little bit more stack to work with, but by that point, Raisy was able to mount a bit of a counteroffensive and get away. But Spart1e still firmly in control, got a solid lead, nice cycle on both of the items, and he has 2 of the totems up as well. Very important that Raisy tries to hunt those down, take down those totems, because if Spart1e gets 1 more up, he essentially has a portable Mega right in his pocket.
Yeah, as long as he keeps his top mid control and keeps the circulation of the items, he should be fine here, but 1 totem has been taken out for Raisy here, as he's just waiting for the time being, but the tri-bolt is coming through, just trying to feed information here to Spart1e to see exactly whereabouts he could be along that Mega area. But at the moment, Raisy's on the warpath for him, but these rockets, you were talking about it earlier, been phenomenal, but Spart1e's just playing very patient here, just waiting for him to make the first mistake, try and get the first shot off. The Heavy is going to come out, but Willie going to try and go for it. That's a beautiful rocket then, the follow-up with the LG. Great stuff there from Spart1e.
Spart1e bringing the party once again. These rockets are absolutely phenomenal right now. He's gonna catch Raisy once again. What can the Maestro player do? Kinda stuck down below towards the teleporter, but the rails are exquisite and Spart1e will fall again after having control for a significant amount of time. And now Spart1e, he has to stabilize. He knows Sorlag is so stacked, will have picked up Mega, will be able to secure the Heavy as well. He cannot take a direct engagement anytime soon. He needs to rely on that long distance damage, try to get some chips off with the railgun and hope that he will put himself in a position to once again challenge Raisy shortly. Nice avoidance right there. Raisy completely losing track of his opponents.
Say, but now the engagement does commence. Raisy's going to try and flank around, try and get the rail off, but he doesn't. But Spart1e hasn't got a huge amount of health, but as I've said that, he does pick up the Mega and the Light for the time being. The LG comes through, but Raisy is just trying to keep him back so he can at least contest for the Heavy. That was beautiful stuff from Raisy there to try and pick up that Heavy. But now he's the one with top mid control, and he's definitely on the warpath trying to find where Spart1e could be and where he actually changed to. He finds him, but Spart1e's just doing a great job choosing the right paths and routes to keep away from Raisy, because he knows he can't take this bout as of yet. But the rockets from Spart1e there, disgusting rail once more from Raisy, and he's definitely going to be on the hunt for Spart1e. Finds him, but will he be able to take him down here, Flea?
That still remains to be seen, especially now that Spart1e manages to step into the acid. Raisy knows he's done for, nowhere to run from that place. Spart1e will drop another frag. He's doing the right things though. He's playing this very cautiously, just waiting passively, allowing Raisy to usually just fly by him, and then he just slaps him in the back with a bit of a rocket or a rail, and that's exactly what he should be doing. Playing as slippery as he possibly can. He knows he still has a lead. He can't contest just yet. He needs to do damage on Raisy when his opponent least expects it. And now Raisy is coming so close to finding Spart1e, but every single time the Swede just manages to dodge away and avoid most of the damage. Won't be able to do so this time though. Raisy, he smells blood, is gonna go after his opponent. LG has to come out. But he takes a lot of damage right there. Spart1e has an opportunity off the spawn. He might be able to secure himself the Mega right now.
You saw there too with the shotgun, he was tempted to go for it, but he had about 68 HP, so I think he decided to at least switch up to the LG because he didn't have enough health to take one engagement. Went for the LG, completely understandable. Spart1e, on the other hand, managed to clean that up as he was trying to go from rockets to light. And now Spart1e is the one in control, but still needs to be careful here. He's got 2.5 minutes left. He does have a 2-frag lead, which would be huge on a map like Blood Run, but we know what Vale is like, Flea. As if you can see here, he's going to try and push through now to try and get something going here. The LG comes through, puts him back. Nice rail to follow up once more. And again, Spart1e increases his lead.
Raisy perhaps a bit too aggressive in these situations. Yes, you've got a huge base stack when you're playing a heavy champion like Sorlag, but this kind of aggression, you need to hit all of those rails. And Raisy, of course, he lands a lot of them, but Spart1e is maneuvering himself expertly in these kind of positions where he gets up close and personal, whips out the LG, and then Raisy is just too slow to react when he still has that railgun out. 4-frag leads with 1 minute and 30 seconds left to go, Lethal. I don't think this is a start that anyone was expecting watching this kind of matchup. Spart1e, can he hang on to the lead that he has so far?
Yeah, this is ridiculous to say the least. He could almost walked into both of those totems. Only walked into one anyway, but Raisy is definitely on the warpath once again. He was trying to at least clean up Spart1e, but Spart1e for now just needs to play passive here. Needs to be careful. 1 minute and 15 left with a full frag difference, but as I say that it's free now as Raisy is continuing to make sure that he can force his engagements out, but is baiting the rocket spawn for the time being in case Spart1e does push for them. And again, a lovely rail from Raisy.
Spart1e's making sure to do a lot of damage even if he does die. You could clearly see that in the previous engagement. Yes, he dropped the frag, but he did so much damage with the rockets that Raisy was unable to just rush him off the spawn. And right now he's essentially standing still. Down towards the teleporter, Raisy has passed him once, twice already. Oh, there we go, a little bit of LG in the back. Raisy now, of course, knows where his opponent is, but he has to put the pedal to the metal. He has to move quickly. Time is definitely running out.
2 missed rails there, but it doesn't matter. Raisy gets to third, 25 seconds left, and I think Spart1e picking up that heavy is not going to help at all. A few half-decent rockets there, but I think that's all said and done here.
Yeah.
Is Spart1e managing to take this? Very shocking here to start the first match of the day here, I feel like, Flo.
Absolutely. Few people would have expected an outcome, a convincing win from Spart1e on map 1, but here we go. Might this be his first win of stage 4? And even against an opponent like Raisy, one of the absolute best in the world. So as Spart1e off to a good start, let's see if he can keep the momentum going. This is something that we say a lot about Spart1e though. He starts off very strongly a lot of the times. We see this, usually. When he does win a map, it's very often the first map. And when he does play just on a single contained map, he very often is the first person to get a frag on the board. And then maybe 2 or 3, but it always ends up slipping away and just grasping or escaping his grasp at the very final moment. So Spart1e starting off well, not something that is too surprising, but now it all comes down on whether or not he can hang on to this lead.
I don't think Spart1e will be too annoyed if he loses the second map, because the third map will be Molten Falls anyway. I know for Raisy, this isn't one of his best maps. It's probably just one of those in-between purgatory kind of maps he, is not a big fan of, but he'll just play it anyway. But I think that's probably one of the strongest maps for Spart1e to get anything going in terms of wanting to try and close out the series. But yeah, quite shocking. And I think even saw this 70% rail for Spart1e. But then again, you've got to remember he only shot the rail 10 times, so 7 out of 10. You guys do the maths at home. But yeah, 70% rail to say the least. Every time he chose the engagement, he managed to choose the right one.
Yeah, and I think that was definitely the decisive factor this time around. Spart1e was so patient. So many times we saw it over and over again. He would just hold an angle, set up in a nice controllable area of the map, and Raisy, kind of getting carried away by the speed that you have with Zorlike, would just bounce around the map, fly around the corner, and Spart1e would just be there waiting. Bam, a rocket in the back, a rail to finish it off you go. Even if I don't get the kill, I'm doing so much damage to you that you now have to spend a lot of time getting your stack back up, and I might have an opportunity to put myself back into control and continue a good rotation. So Spart1e's placement, his positioning throughout the map was just exquisite, and it's going to be interesting to see how Raisy deals with that. Does he now approach this in a much more careful manner himself, knowing that there's a good chance that Spart1e might just be waiting around any corner with a shotgun or a rocket out, or does he continue with that more aggressive free-roaming style that we saw in map 1?
Yeah, his defensive rockets were very, very good for Spart1e. We know that with Vale, there's a lot of narrow corridors. It's a very small map. It's a lot easier. But even then, like some of the rockets he fired, or, not even just a defensive one, the predictive ones he made as well. At some point, Raisy must have just thought, what on earth can I do here to try and at least take the lead? It's just the fact that he was up 3-0. He had top mid control. The only problem with Spart1e was the fact that he knew that he held the mega and the light area quite well in terms of top mid, but he had to push these fights out. He couldn't just sit back and wait for Raisy to push, because Raisy's not going to push until he knows that his opponent's weak enough to force the engagement out, which you saw from then that Spart1e was the one who had to push him every single time. Then afterwards, you saw Spart1e took the lead. He planted his totems all around top mid, waiting for Raisy to make the first mistake, and just went on from there pretty much.
Yeah. And just the damage output and all of these engagements was so good from Spart1e. That's what got him that final frag in the end still, right? Raisy was pressuring really badly, but Spart1e just did so much damage every single time that there comes a point where, yes, Spart1e dies, but of the respawn, he knows, wait a minute, I did so much damage to Raisy. He might just only have 50 points of health and next to no armor. If I rush him with machine gun off the spawn, this could really work. And indeed, that's exactly what happens. Raisy getting caught out, he knows he has to chase, he knows he has to be aggressive, and Spart1e knows that he has the better stack of the spawn. So played to perfection on map 1, which of course went to Spart1e. But on that note, we are jumping into the second map of this series. Starting off on Spart1e's point of view, it is Blood Run.
Spart1e now. Nice rail from him. Uses the ghost ward to get away for the time being. Picks up the light. So in terms of stack, he's doing okay. He's just almost on the default stack for the time being. But just holding his ground, just trying to lurk out where Raisy's going to be. But it doesn't matter. Some of the rockets on the best. Spart1e needs to try and get away if he can. And he doesn't, as Raisy gets the first frag on the board.
And another one just to boot right off the bat. But yeah, that was just, that came down to the weapon picks. Raisy played that perfectly because he knew that Spart1e didn't have LG yet. So he knew that if I stay back and I stay at like the medium range, he has to get pretty lucky to land rockets at that distance, whereas I can just do constant damage with my lightning gun that he won't really be able to return. Raisy, really good positioning, knowing exactly the weakness in his opponent's weapons and taking perfect advantage of that too. And now Raisy already 3 frags in the lead, just barely a minute into Blood Run. And that is bad news for Spart1e, because this is one of the most defendable maps in the entire lineup. If you get a lead, there's so many choke points, so many escape routes, and Raisy, of course, is someone who we all know can just instantly turn things down to a snail's pace and plays an extremely passive reactive game. So Spart1e, he's struggling. Looks like he might drop another frag here. He did have the Ghost Walk at the ready, but I think Spart1e knew that it would have been wasted, and that even if he popped it, getting out with that little help wouldn't help much. But ow, that's gotta hurt. Spart1e should drop once again. Raisy even pulling out the gauntlet, but that is a Ghost Walk wasted.
It's very difficult. On Blood Run, just in general, everyone knows what Blood Run can be like. With a 2 or 3 frag difference in terms of the scoreline, it's definitely, you're right, it's one of the hardest to come back from, with all the audio cues and, a lot of players either sitting in the nail room waiting for the sound cues or waiting by the telly to then, take your pick, make the 50-50 path to see exactly where your opponent could be. It's very, very difficult, but we saw a repeat of the first map where Raisy had a bit of a lead and then Spart1e tried to make a comeback, but it's looking very difficult here. It's already 7-0. It could be 80 if Raisy manages to finish him off. Yes, he does. It's already 8-0. Even though there's 7.5 minutes left, there's a chance, but on a map like this, it's a big ask.
Very true, and I think that a huge part in this scoreline is the LG, because if I'm looking at the stats right now, Spart1e has used 0 lightning shots. He hasn't even fired that crucial weapon even once. Raisy whipping out the gauntlet. We know he likes to mess around, but Raisy currently has 48% LG on a target as small and snivelly as Nyx. Spart1e hasn't even gotten to use that weapon once. And that is such a decisive factor on a map like Blood Run. If you can't use the dominant mid-range weapon, what are you going to do? And Raisy playing this so well. Spart1e drops down right into Raisy's trap. He's not gonna let that fly get away this time with the defensive rocket. Spart1e finally retaliating a bit.
Raisy needs to try and stay alive if he can. Beautiful shotgun shot there from Raisy, as it's now 12-0. I don't want to say it's all said and done already, but there's a very strong possibility here. Spart1e trying to get anything going here, just trying to force out the engagements whilst Raisy's weak, but Raisy again left on 44 HP, gets another heavy and is going to continue to contest that mega, but it's just going to wait for the time being as Spart1e now knows exactly where he is, but the mega gets picked up. Spart1e's taken down once again, and Raisy increasing his lead once more.
I mean, Raisy's mouse movements, you can tell it's erratic. He knows that he is unhappy with how that first map turned out. He knows that he can do so much better, and he's eager to prove it too. He's got to be careful though. Spart1e actually with the stack advantage. Raisy, just 40 points of health. Spart1e, can he finish this one? 6! That will at least be heavy going towards the sweet. He should be able to secure Mega as well. And now Spart1e, finally, for the first time in 5 minutes, managing to put himself in control. But he needs so much more than control alone. That's a good start. First frag for him for map 2.
Yeah, I think that's a good start. Only problem is time is of the essence here, Flea, so it's not looking too good here. The rails come through, gets the second frag on the board. Spart1e's going to try and at least put him on spawn every time in every way before Raisy plays the cat and mouse game. Spart1e at least manages to stay alive, gets the heavy, he's going to get the health all for his troubles too. Mega is up and he's going to go for that very shortly. But at least now he's stacked up to the eyeballs here, Flea. But the only problem is 11 frag difference. Oh, it's a tall order.
Out comes the Ghost Walk. Raisy caught completely by surprise. Good rocket though in return. That's a lot of damage. Of course, Spart1e playing Nyx, that's a squishy champion. Low base stack, so 100 damage rocket is going to hurt her more than it would some other champions. Can he land the rail? He won't be able to get the kill shot off. And Raisy, once again, netting himself one more frag. Spart1e trying to go for a little bit of a sneaky play right there, baiting his opponent using the Mega. Raisy is just gonna vacate the area. Leave the battle for what it is. He knows he's got such a commanding lead that he doesn't have to put himself in any dangerous situations. He can just play his own game and everything should go fine unless Spart1e just absolutely pulls out a masterclass of a comeback.
Absolutely right there. Raisy on 50 HP managed to get the light as he went through. Gets to heavy for his troubles, but is now going to find another engagement with Spart1e here. Managed to clean up 16-4, and Spart1e needs to be a bit more careful here, but then again he can't be careful. He needs to take a lot of these huge risks to make something happen, but getting 12 frags in 3 minutes 40, very highly unlikely. It's very rare I've seen anything like this before, but especially on Blood Run, it's again, can Spart1e do the impossible here? We'll have to see as Raisy is just going to wait for the time being. Gets a beautiful rocket, but instead Spart1e finishes him off with the rail, gets the Mega and the light, and will continue to keep Raisy back as the heavy machine gun comes out. Does a lot of damage there for the time being. Spart1e, 96 HP, only on 6, needs to get away for now. And the Ghost Walk comes through. Raisy's going to try and chase him down. Another rail comes through, both of them almost on equal HP. And Raisy is the one who finishes the job.
Yeah, Raisy just running his own routes around the map. He's a confident player, has always been that way, and you can tell in the way he's approaching these fights. Off the spawn last time, he knew that heavy was still up. All he had was the machine gun, and still he just went for it and stole heavy right underneath of Spart1e's nose. That just screams confidence right there, knowing that even if I die, I'm going to deny this, and I'm going to do so much damage to you that after respawn, I'm going to be a real threat off the bat. And now Raisy, he knows he's got the stack, he's got a good rotation going on, Mega's about to spawn, he's like, okay, you want to hit me with the rail? Please, go ahead, I will kill you no matter what. and with just 2 minutes left to go, this is an incredible lead, especially considering that we're watching a blood run game right now.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. This isn't your typical blood run game. It was more the fact that Spart1e was charging in and was being way too aggressive at the start, trying to clean up Raisy on numerous occasions just to try and finish him off and at least get some kind of item control. But it's way too little too late now. The gauntlet comes out twice, still somehow finishes him off with the shotgun. But let's be real here, Spart1e only had DMG to follow suit. But Raisy now still got a great stack. Pretty much all said and done here, but I don't think Spart1e... Okay, let's be real here. You know, with the second map, it's not really the scoreline you want going into the third and final map. But then again, it is Molten Falls. Spart1e could have the opportunity, but just need to be a bit more careful on the choices he makes and the engagements he wants to take at the start.
Yeah, he absolutely should have switched to a more passive playstyle after these first disastrous minutes on this map, because he started off well, but it went south so quickly. And then the moment that Raisy is 2 frags ahead of you on a map like this, you need to pump the brakes, Lethal. You need to just be like, okay, if I don't slow things down, I'm going to be looking at a tremendous loss soon. So is going to get pummeled out right there. Raisy, I just want to say, Raisy has done 250 points of damage with the gauntlet alone. He's done more damage with gauntlet than with the shotgun. How often do you see that?
Not too often. He's clearly just trying to add to his humiliation medal tally, isn't he? You know, he's doing it all in one game, one map to say the least. Raisy now 23-5, and he's got a huge stack. Playing with his food at this point in time, 24-5, probably be 25 or 26 depending on which route and paths Spart1e's going to take. Spart1e's going to charge in, ghost walking, hello with the gauntlet. LG comes out to play 25-5, and I think Raisy's going to try and extend it to 26 if he can. This is the first well. He's just having a bit of a laugh here, I think. He gets it anyway. Raisy, calm down.
Lethal Raisy's working on his new quickscope montage. He's just getting himself some nice clips of these wicked sick quickscopes. My man can do it all. Even handicapping himself, he lands some of the best rails in the business, tying things right back up 1-1. Very convincing and commanding victory from Raisy this time around. But as we all know, one more map to go, and Spart1e right now, the only thing that's left for him to do is accept this result and move on, knowing that in the first map, which was a lot more balanced of a game, he did manage to beat Raisy, and that he can do it. He's got the skill. He just needs to get a better start and not let his opponent run over him. And if it does happen, pump the brakes, slow it down. Don't let your opponent set the pace of the game and just disappear from the map the way he did on map 1.
Yeah, I think Spart1e's going to be sweating underneath the collar here after that last map. You know, I think it was 26. That's definitely one of the highest we've had in the Pro League in terms of standard matches. But what can we talk about here? You know, the first 2 maps, we've always noticed that Raisy always comes out on top for the first few frags. We know Spart1e tries to at least compensate that by trying to clean up and then get some kind of item control afterwards. But yeah, there was just no room. Okay, I respect the fact that Spart1e tried to put the pressure on and then try and force Raisy to be outside of his comfort zone. But Raisy is the kind of player, I think Base may have said it once before, where Raisy actually expects the surprise attacks more than any other player, which is why it's quite convenient for him. He doesn't really expect too much common strategies in terms of most of the players. He expects these surprise attacks all the time. And, you know, I think we're going to see a lot of gauntlet action throughout this replay here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's just one of Raisy's trademarks, isn't it? He has fun when he plays, and he absolutely, when he sees an opportunity to get under his opponent's skin and make these people's gears just grind a little bit more by just throwing some sand in them, he's going to do it. He's going to take that opportunity. He's not going to be one of these players who will always try to be the gentleman. When he has the opportunity to get himself the win, he will take it. Oh, and there's nothing to be ashamed of when it comes to that. If it works, then why not do it?
Yeah, with his rail shots towards the last 3 frags of the game, he's definitely giving me motion sickness, you know, giving us a real treat of how well he was playing. Actually, that was the one I was talking about in particular. But yeah, it's just crazy. He's just playing with his food at that point. I wouldn't even say at that point. It was like after about 3 or 4 minutes he was playing with his food. But yeah, you know, this is serious now. You know, this is the final map. Raisy could lose the series, and it will mean the first series win on the board for Spart1e. But can Spart1e recover after that second map loss? We'll have to see. as we go into the third match, which will be Molten Falls, and Spart1e would see what he can do right off the get-go.
Raisy immediately delaying the heavy spawn. I think Spart1e probably heard it being picked up, should have a good idea of when that item is up. And that might help him out a lot, since Anarchy should still be the faster of these two characters. If Spart1e secures himself the Mega and gets out on top in this first engagement, he might be able to set up an early rotation and control of both items. But that one rail from Raisy is going to make him rethink. He's going to bounce out of that room knowing that he can't contest for the Mega anymore. And now Heavy, does he even want to be there? Good rail to start things up. He's even going to use the injection and push in. Risky play, the aggro. Raisy is going to use the shotgun. We know how effective the super shotgun can be against a champion like Anarchy. Spart1e clinging on, but he is so low, and Raisy will take advantage of that excellent first engagement. Delaying Heavy paid off in dividends.
Oh, that one jump he may have been able to survive from that last shotgun shot, but even then, the damage was done, and Raisy, he would have been definitely on the chase. Still got a very good stack at the moment. You spoke about earlier how well he delayed Heavy by a huge amount, but obviously Spart1e probably didn't hear the audio cue from the Heavy being picked up earlier. But Raisy's on 16 HP. He's going to risk it and try and get the Heavy anyway, but at least he burns it if he gets taken down anyway. But Raisy's playing this quite well. He's just waiting, playing Ring Around the Rosie with Spart1e for the time being. That was a beautiful rocket, but it's going to come up with the shotgun and cleans up. That was phenomenal.
Wow. Spart1e even pushing out the nice, and Raisy saying thanks as he gets railed, dropping onto the Mega. But how in the world did Raisy win that one? That opening rocket from an impossible angle, it felt like, doing 100 damage, and then just going on the bounce pad with the shotgun. Very aggressive play. Absolutely should have been going Spart1e's way after that tremendous amount of damage he put out towards the start. But it will be Raisy still extending his lead, and this is starting to look a lot like our previous matchup. Spart1e needs to slow things down. Mega will be going towards Raisy, who now has such a strong control on both of the items.
Raisy earlier, you was right. I think Spart1e expected him to come up the jump pad or flank round back to Heavy, but instead he didn't do either, just sitting there waiting for him. Hopefully he'll just go, well, the problem will just go away at that point. But it didn't matter as Raisy managed to take that frag. Anyway, because could be Spart1e's first on the board. And it is, with, again, another beautiful rail from Spart1e, but this is his chance, his opportunity to get a comeback going, as he does have the injection. He's going to make the play for the Mega, but he's going to at least push in forwards, takes him down, and Raisy's the one who actually increases his lead.
I feel like that was a bit of a misplay from Spart1e right there, not to go for Mega after that kill. He does manage to get the LG kill going out the bounce pad, which is quite difficult to do, as we all should know by now, but still, I feel like Spart1e had an opportunity to start a good rotation of his own, but he just didn't want to stick around for Mega. First went over to get himself the small armor, but by the time he looped back around, Raisy had already rushed the item and got himself that extra stack he needed to get the frag, so bit of a misplay, I feel, from Spart1e. Missed opportunity. I hope he doesn't surrender Heavy just the same now too. He needs these items. He'll go back around to pick it up though, but Raisy, out comes the peeker and the LG as well. Spart1e in a bad spot, has the injection. This is going to lead to a frag, or our players going to both indeed break away instead.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that Mega play earlier. I'm not too sure Spart1e didn't know the timing, or maybe he was worried that Raisy... He knew that Raisy was going to spawn on the LG stairs and go straight for the Mega, not 100%. But anyway, Spart1e is looking to be on good terms for now. He's only on 119 HP, but gets to Heavy to boot. He's going to push straight in and see if he can clean up this one rail, which he doesn't get, and he's going to have to let him get away. But we've got 10 seconds until the Mega comes up. Spart1e looking to contest it if he can. He's going to try and drop down. He's got the height advantage. He's got the authority to do so, but decides to use the injection. He's going to be on the hunt for Raisy. Will he be able to clean up? No, he doesn't. Oh my goodness. Raisy still manages to take that fight, and he's going to push in again. It's to see if he can at least clean up once more. And will he be able to? He doesn't. Both these players neck and neck on 1 HP, you're rightfully. Wow. This is just remarkable for both of these players.
I think Spart1e's making a lot of mistakes though. Like earlier when he could have picked up the small armor, he chose not to, but instead just go for Mega right off the bat. Yes, He didn't really need it since his stack was almost full, but he has to keep in mind, Raisy didn't have any armor to begin with too, so just picking it up to deny it to his opponent could have helped a lot as well. I think he just wanted to leave it up in case he took damage, so he had something to fall back on, but in doing so, he just gave Raisy quite a bit of freedom of movement and didn't have the stack he needed to win that fight. So Spart1e, I feel like there's been a few misplays so far that if he hadn't made them, this could absolutely be a tied game, if not a lead for Spart1e.
The lead could increase after that first rail as Raisy still trying to find out the best option to flank Spart1e here, but even then, like, Spart1e was definitely the one who's definitely didn't have the upper hand, and Raisy chose the wrong engagement, sadly, chose the wrong path to try and fight him on. But this could be an opportunity now for Spart1e to try and tie things up. The injection comes in, the LG comes through as well. Heavy's picked up, but will he be able to get this rail? Yes, he does. Beautiful stuff from Spart1e.
Absolutely, and I again want to shout out Spart1e's defensive rockets. They're what keeping him in this game. He's had so much success with them, just like on map 1, doing so much damage to Raisy every single time his opponent tries to push in, and that is really what's putting him in a position where it's a tight game. If he didn't do so much damage with those rockets, Raisy would have absolutely steamrolled him already.
That is true indeed. The defensive rockets in Spart1e has returned. But look at this though, he's delaying the heavy just to mess up the timings a little bit for Raisy. But Raisy is possibly in a position to hear that, which is so good about that spot on Molten Forge. If you're underneath top mid, where Raisy is now, you can hear most of the map depending on the audio cues and where you come from. Spart1e now was looking for the flank, but it looks like for now Raisy decided to back away. And Spart1e doing a great job just delaying these items, just making himself be a real nuisance for Raisy here, keeping him guessing.
He really is playing things very safely though, Spart1e. Like, he could have denied that small armor over at LG, but he chose not to leave it up in case he needs it. I don't know, Harry. I think there's a lot of these small mistakes that he's making, giving Raisy a lot to work with and perhaps showing a bit too much respect. Spart1e had the better stack. He had most of the control just a minute ago. He could have just manifested himself on heavy right off the bat after denying that small armor, but he left it up just in case he would need it. And I think that these kinds of passive plays are not helping him right now, as Raisy has built a sizable lead, 3 frags already in just barely more than a minute. And now Spart1e, after having such a nice comeback to tie things right back up, is struggling massively.
Yeah, there was a couple of things with that engagement you can definitely take upon it. I think he may have left the heavy just so that he doesn't hear where he is, in terms of Raisy finding out where he is, but also at the same time, if you saw his stack, he still had he had more armor than he did health anyway, so I think he felt like that if he can take that fight and win, then at least he's got the heavy armor to back himself up afterwards and then pick up the health orbs. But yeah, it was questionable to say the least. And now Spart1e is definitely paying the price. But then again, he does have a huge stack. And he needs to try and force an engagement here in his favor, which he does. Spart1e now only 2 frags behind here, Flea.
This is absolutely a possible game for Spart1e, as he again leaves up a small armor, knowing very well that Raisy needs those a lot. Spart1e, please. This is always risky, because if Raisy now loops around, which is exactly what he's doing, he's going to reward himself with a small armor just going up that bounce pad. So Spart1e is just leaving so many resources for his opponent, and I'm not sure. Oh, is it going to connect? No, he knows exactly where Raisy is though. Good read by the Swede, as he's pushing in aggressively once again. A minute left on the clock for 2 minutes, or 2 frags rather. Absolutely possible.
That's right, 1 minute left. Spart1e rocket jumping anywhere he can to gain some speed onto Raisy. But he's realised that he can't take that engagement. The picker comes through, and I feel like Raisy's been fed enough information to know what he could be doing. But Spart1e here, he's doubled back to try and chase him down. Rocket jumped up, gone back down, but it chose the right path. He's going to try and at least try and clean him up if he can. This is so important. The injection comes through, but it doesn't matter. It's all said and done. Raisy, now with only 25 seconds left, has a 3 frag lead, and it's just a shame. Oh, and the suicide comes in just to make matters worse.
Oh man,
and 15
Raisy.
seconds left here, Flea.
Yeah, he just has to add that tiny little bit of flair to his play. Even if it was such a close game until essentially the very end, he's still like, okay, here we go. Time to whip out the gauntlet one more time. And now Spart1e is going to chase him down with the gauntlet too. But this is GG. It will indeed be Raisy, Maestro Raisy, taking the win 2-1. Spart1e, not the best of starts, really good comeback, tying things up back up around 6-6. That was at around the 6-minute mark, if I'm not mistaken. But then afterwards, I feel like the mistakes just caught up with him. And Raisy played a more consistent game overall. Spart1e gave his opponent a lot of respect, arguably too much respect, and let Raisy just have free roam of the map, even when he was in control. At least that's what it felt like to me. And I think that it came back to bite him.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to double check his stack when it was 6 at the time when he went up that jump pad. It was more the fact that I think he had more armor than health, so I think his health would have run out first anyway. So I don't think picking up the heavy would have made too much of a difference. It was just more the fact that in terms of that point, he didn't want to give away his position. Like, because if he picks up the heavy straight away, Raisy's got high advantage. He's going to get the LG out earlier, so he's going to have like a much bigger advantage, even though Spart1e had the bigger stack. But even then, I feel like Spart1e should not have lost that engagement.
Absolutely, and I think it just comes to show that this proves or validates what we were talking about towards the start. Spart1e getting so close once again, but unable to really close it out. He wins that first map, very solid win, very convincingly. Yes, he loses the second one, Blood Run, and in quite the fashion too. That was extremely dominant from Raisy, we can't lie about that. But then the last game, that really could have been either player's game, but Spart1e, I feel, a few too many mistakes towards the end, not to point at one particular event, but there were just a few of these strange misplays, these situations, these fights that he really should have won, like when he had Raisy stuck below that bounce pad with next to no health to his name. That is just heartbreaking to see, but yeah, overall, the curse still persists. Spart1e getting so close, but still unable to get his first win for Stage 4.
It's a real shame because we know how good Spart1e is. You know, the EU region is very, very strong. It's got some very tough competition. And it's just a shame that one engagement, that one frag just made all the difference. Like, do you feel like maybe more Spart1e should have just continued to go around the rotations of the items and then wait for Raisy to make a mistake?
I think so, yeah. I think that he did a bit too much of the exact opposite, giving Raisy too much respect. He was in control, he had a nice rotation, he had complete freedom of the map, but he still felt like he was avoiding Raisy a bit too much. Whereas in those situations, what you really have to do is, I'm the king. I run this show. You have to be hiding from me. I shouldn't be worried about, okay, well, Raisy might be there, so maybe I should go around first. No, you shouldn't be doing that. You can't be doing that when you're in control. And I felt that Spart1e perhaps just gave his opponent a bit too much respect, a bit too much freedom, a bit too much leeway to make his way around the map, and he didn't pressure Raisy hard enough. And if he would have, this could have turned out entirely difficult.
Yeah, I can understand why Spart1e played like that. Maybe he actually knew that Raisy was at the shotgun spawn, but maybe he just assumed that Raisy didn't know where he was. But I'm pretty sure Raisy knew the whole time, you know, because he was actually in the corner just waiting for him to get that jump pad. And it's very hard. I know I can understand that, like, you know, if you're massively stacked and you're at a disadvantage in terms of not your movement, but more like your positioning, then it's quite tempting to take some of these fights. But that was probably just one where, you know, if he came up that jump pad, you know, just get LG to no end and finish off with the shotgun, which could have happened. Maybe he should have been the one who waited for the next round of items, you know, give it another 30 seconds. He's the one who was actually on shotgun spawn, trying to at least force the engagement or contest in the heavy in his favor in comparison.
Absolutely. That's a very good point too. But on the other hand, we've been talking about Spart1e a lot, but this was still an impressive play from Raisy as well, right? We can't just put this all on Spart1e. He is, of course, going up against Raisy, one of the absolute best players in the world. You know, just recently, Stage 2 finals, it was Raisy who got himself all the way into the grand finals against the one and only Rafa back then. So Raisy, an absolute top contender, played a very evasive and slippery game and just, unfortunately for Spart1e, wasn't able to break through that towards the end.
Just Raisy doing the usual work, you know, playing with his food, but even then he did struggle just a tad in that last map and the first map. But that is the first match all said and done, and we will be back with the second match very soon, so stay tuned.